Continuing lesson 9.4, 9.4b as in boy. Example 2 says they want us to graph negative x plus 2y equals 4 by finding the intercepts and using them to draw the graph. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to look for both the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So if we're going to look for the x-intercept, we're going to put 0 in for y. That goes away. Alright, so look what we've got there. We've got a negative x equals 4. Whenever this is the case, and your variable has a negative, in order to get rid of that, you just change it to a positive. But if you change that to a positive, you have to change everything over here to its opposite as well. So if I change this to an x, I have to change this to a negative 4. So what I've done is I just change this to its opposite and change everything over here to its opposite. Now that isn't theoretically the mathematical way to do it as far as explain it, but it's just an easy way. So just for the sake of making sure I do my theory correctly, I'm going to show you why it works. This is actually a negative 1, right? So if I'm getting rid of that negative 1 by dividing by negative 1, I'm going to have to divide this side by negative 1. Negative 1 over negative 1 is positive 1, and negative over negative. And 4 over negative 1, whenever I divide a negative and a positive, I get a negative answer. So that's why it works in theory. But just telling you that just change the sign of everything here and change the sign of everything here, you've basically done that. So when my y is 0, my x is negative 4. So this ends up being my x-intercept. My ordered pair is negative 4, 0. So in order to graph that, if I can do it on this little tiny graph, it's going to be a point right there on the x-axis at negative 4. Alright, so the next thing they want us to do is find the y-intercept. So when we find the y-intercept, we make x 0 and we find y. Okay, that goes away. Divide by 2, divide by 2, so y equals 2. So that is my y-intercept, and my ordered pair is 0, 2. And in order to graph that, let's see here, 0, 2, I go up 2 to that point there. And when they say graph it, that means they want the line there. Alright, so that is example 2. The last example in this 9.4 section is, again, finding the intercepts. I have y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. So if we want to find the x-intercept first, we set y equal to 0. So 0 equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. We subtract 2 from both sides. Negative 2 equals negative 1/3 x, because that goes away. And what we're going to do here is we're going to get rid of this negative 1/3. Now notice this negative 1/3 is being multiplied by the x. So in order to get rid of it, I divide it by the x, and then I divide this side. And this goes away. And if you remember from, boy, it's been a while, we can make this into two fractions, negative 2 over 1 and negative 1/3. And we invert multiply, and that goes away. And negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6 over 1, or just 6. So my x equals 6. That is my x-intercept. My ordered pair would be 6, 0, and I can graph that by putting it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about right there. and then it's asking me to find my y-intercept. So my y-intercept again is found the exact same way. It's just that instead of putting 0 in for my y value, I'm putting 0 in for my x value, which makes life easier because this whole thing is going to go away because any number times 0 is 0, so y equals 2. So my x-intercept, or my y-intercept is 2, my ordered pair is 0, 2, and it's real easy to graph right there, and then I can draw my line like that, and I'm done. Alright, so problem sets for 9.4. Just like what we did, looking at this, I'm not really seeing anything really strange or not able to follow according to what we did for the examples. 29 through 32 give you the equations, and then they ask you to write the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So if you look at number 30, first equation they give you is negative 2x plus 3y equals 6, and they want to know the x-intercept. Well, all we do is plug in 0 for y, because we're looking for the x. That goes away, and you solve for x, and then put that number in the graph. And then for the y-intercept that they want, you're going to put 0 in for the x and see what your y value is, so that's not too bad. Other than that, looks like it won't be too bad. I do want to look at some of these, like number 40 and some of those, so let's go ahead and try some of those. Okay, my graph is a little bit bigger. That'll help me. So we are, let's see, number 40. Graph the line that passes through the point negative 3, 4. So negative 3, 4 will be that point right there. Went over negative 3 and up 4. What else does it say? And has a y-intercept of 3. It crosses the y-axis at 3. So it crosses right there. And it said graph it. So we're just going to draw a line then that does that. So that's 40. 42 says a line passes through the point 3, 4. So it passes through this point, 3, 4, and has an x-intercept of 1. So it crosses the x-axis at 1. Draw the line. 44, graph the line that passes through the points 5, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 3. And negative 3, negative 5. Negative 3, and then down 5. So that point there, and we draw our line there. But it says, what are the x and y intercepts for this line? Where does it cross x, and where does it cross y? Well, it crosses x at positive 2, and it crosses y at negative 2. So those are my x and y intercepts for number 44. So when you're doing some of these odd ones here that I've given you, make sure that you're answering the question. I almost missed it. I almost just graphed the 2 points and then drew a line and then saw that they wanted me to give them the x and y intercepts. So make sure you give them what they want there. Alright, so that's it for chapter 9, lecture, and going through some of the problems.